Police officers, what's the strangest crime someone tried to report? I'd been a cop for 12 years and thought I'd seen everything until Margaret Finley walked into the station on a Thursday morning carrying what looked like a homemade science fair project. She was probably in her mid-50s, wearing a purple tracksuit and orthopedic sneakers, and she had this determined expression that immediately told me this was going to be a long shift. She marched straight up to the front desk, set down her contraption with a loud thunk, and announced that she needed to report a crime of unprecedented severity. The desk sergeant, Davis, asked what kind of crime. She looked him dead in the eye and said, "Gravitational assault. My upstairs neighbor is manipulating the laws of physics in my apartment, and I have proof." Davis glanced at me with that "please help me" look, so I volunteered to take her statement. Margaret followed me to an interview room, carefully carrying her device like it was the Hope Diamond. Once we sat down, she immediately launched into her complaint. "Officer, for the past 3 months, objects in my apartment have been falling incorrectly. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then I started documenting everything." She pulled out a 3-ring binder that had to be 4 inches thick, labeled Gravity Anomaly Log, in neat handwriting. I opened it to find pages and pages of entries, each describing when and where something fell, with timestamps down to the second. August 3rd, 2:14 p.m. Dropped coffee mug in kitchen, fell at wrong angle. August 5th, 9:22 a.m. Pen rolled off table too slowly. The entries went on for nearly 100 pages. She placed her contraption on the table between us. It was a spirit level that had been modified with fishing weights, magnets, copper wire, and several small compasses hot glued to the sides. There was also a digital thermometer taped to it and what appeared to be a small radio antenna sticking out the top. "This is a gravitational field detector," she explained with complete seriousness. "When gravity is being manipulated, the magnets react to the distortion and the compasses spin." I asked her to demonstrate. She set the device on the table and we both stared at it. Nothing happened. She frowned and tapped it a few times. "It only works in my apartment where the interference is occurring. That's how I know the attack is targeted specifically at my living space." I was already mentally composing the referral paperwork when she said something that made me pause. "The manipulation always happens when my upstairs neighbor, Leonard Briggs, is home, never when he's away." I asked if she'd had any disputes with this neighbor. Her face flushed. "He complained about my wind chimes last year, said they kept him awake. I told him they were for spiritual energy flow, and he said that was nonsense. 2 weeks later, the gravity problem started." She pulled out another folder containing hand-drawn graphs showing fluctuations in what she called G-force density over time. "See this spike here? That's when I dropped my keys and they fell sideways instead of straight down." She pulled out her phone and showed me a video of her dropping a set of keys in her kitchen. They fell to the floor in what appeared to be a completely normal fashion. "Do you see it?" she asked urgently. "They fell at approximately 9.7 meters per second squared instead of the standard 9.8. That's a 1% deviation from normal gravity." She'd apparently filmed multiple objects falling in slow motion and counted the frames to determine fall speed, then compared them to physics textbooks. The math was actually impressive in its complexity, even though the premise was insane. I explained that such technology didn't exist. She pulled out printed articles about CERN, gravitational waves, and anti-gravity research from the 1960s. "The government has been suppressing this technology for decades. I believe Leonard is either a physicist conducting illegal experiments or he's been recruited by someone to test this technology on an unwitting subject, me." She showed me probably 20 videos, all showing normal objects falling normally. In each one, she provided breathless narration about the abnormal trajectory or suspicious acceleration rate that I simply couldn't see. I asked what she wanted the police to do. "I need you to obtain a warrant to search his apartment for the gravitational manipulation device. Once you seize it, you can test my apartment and see that gravity returns to normal." I explained that judges don't issue warrants based on the theory that someone is manipulating gravity with non-existent technology. She pulled out a typed list of equipment needed. Gravimeter with 0.01 milligauss sensitivity, seismometer to detect artificial gravitational waves. At the bottom, she'd added multiple witnesses who understand advanced physics. Davis knocked on the door and gestured for me to step outside. In the hallway, he told me that a Leonard Briggs had just called the station to file a harassment complaint. Says his downstairs neighbor has been banging on his door at all hours, leaving bizarre notes, and he caught her trying to break into his apartment last week with what she claimed was a gravitational emergency. That's when things got a lot worse. The rest of the story is linked below or on my channel.